Today I'm going to be ranking the top 5 most powerful leaders from the new Star Wars Unlimited set, Shadows of the Galaxy. Hello and welcome to the table, and besides what I say in the intro, make sure to stay tuned until the end where I'll be talking about the number 1 most powerful leader from the set that might just be better than Boba frickin' Fett. So yeah, with all that aside, let's get into number 5. Oh wait, I got an honorable mention first. And let's talk about that. Kylo Ren, rash and deadly. Now here's the thing. In the first set, IG-88 was the pipe dream deck of the game. And a lot of people liked him. I didn't. Kylo Ren seems like he's going to be very similar in a lot of senses, but a little bit better and a little bit more appealing to me. This is my kind of pipe dream of a deck. And this is, in my opinion, Star Wars' first glass cannon deck. Now, if you know what a glass cannon deck is, you can skip a little bit, but simply put, for those of you that don't know what a glass cannon deck is, it's simply a deck that has one game plan. If it succeeds at doing that game plan, it gives them a massive advantage and pretty much guarantees that they win the game or are going to be very close to winning the game. However, if they do not pull off said thing, they're going to lose. Period. End of sentence. So, let's talk about Kylo Ren. What does Kylo Ren do? Well, as an action, you can exhaust him, discard a card from your hand, okay, and give a unit +2 power for the phase. That seems terrible. What makes this guy so good? Well, it has an epic action. Once you have 4 more resources, you can flip him into a 5/4. What? So you can have a free 5/4 once you have 4 resources out? What? But wait, it gets -1 power for each card in your hand. So now the front makes a bit more sense. You want to flood the board with all the units imaginable, and then any cards that are left that just don't really allow you to, like, you can't play them on curve or whatever, and they're just not going to work, you can discard them away, give a buff to your stuff, rush down the opponent more, and use Kylo Ren once he's out as a free 5/4 to finish off the opponents and make sure that you are guaranteed to win the game. So, this deck seems pretty good. But, if you don't flip out Kylo, you're kind of screwed because you're going to run out of resources so quick that there's no way that you're going to win the game. If you can't flip Kylo and get him to be a 5/4, you're dead. Period. End of sentence. So yeah, that's the kind of deck that I feel like Kylo's going to be, and he seems like he's going to be pretty fun, but if you can pull him off, he's going to be powerful. So that's why I put him here as an honorable mention. But getting into number 5, for realsies this time, let's talk about Rey. Her front side doesn't look too amazing. As an action, exhausting her and paying a whole resource, you can give an experience to a thing with 2 or less power. Which is fine, I guess, but like, Tarkin kind of does it better. Chirrut can make stuff super big, super easily. There are a lot of decks that can make stuff super big, super easily, so what's so appealing about this one? The backside. Because once you have 6 resources, you can epic action Rey and transform her into a 2/6 with Restore 3. That's right, Restore 3 on your leader. But there's more. Don't get me, there's more. On attack, you may give an experience to a thing with 2 or less power. That includes Rey because she's a 2/6. So you can make her a 3/7 on her first attack, and then she restores 3. So you can get 6 value out of her very first attack. And from then on, if your opponent does not kill her, she will now be getting 3 value out of the attack. 1 more by giving an experience to a thing with 2 or less power, just filling your deck with it, and then potentially restoring you 3 more. So that can be potentially 7 value out of an attack. What? What? I don't know. I don't know. Like, why? Why? And you just fill this thing with grit stuff? See, that's the other thing. You can fill this deck to the brim with all the good grit cards in the world and just make grit tribal. And then basically say, hey, you want to attack my things? Okay, they're going to get bigger. And then here's Rey over here saying, hey, I'm going to make them even bigger if they, haven't been dealt damage yet. And restore 3. And attack, yeah. So just, this deck's nuts. If you let it go, this deck's nuts. This deck can be absolutely insane. But this is number 5. We still got a couple more to go. 4, to be specific. The first one being Kyra. Now this deck is similar to Rey in a couple of ways, because instead of giving experience, a +1/+1 buff, which is good, but not great, this, as an action, paying a resource and exhausting her, similarly to Rey, you can deal 2 damage to a friendly unit. You are forced to deal 2 damage to a friendly unit. Okay, that's fine, okay. But then you get to give a shield token to it, that unit. So you deal 2 damage to a thing, but give it a shield. That's actually a pretty damn good trade-off, because shields, if you don't know, say if the thing with a shield on it would be dealt damage, you destroy the shield, and you prevent that damage. It's a one-time get-out-of-jail-free card, and it's a lot better than you would think, especially considering that this deck can allow you to stack shields way more easily than, for example, Luke ever could. So yeah, Kyra looks pretty powerful, but just you wait. It gets better. Once you have 5 or more resources, you can epic action Kyra. And then, Kyra is a 0/8 with grit. Seems pretty good. That says when deployed, heal all damage from each unit, so nothing no longer has any damage on it, but then you deal damage to each unit equal to half of its remaining HP rounded down. So the goal of this deck is to play important units that are pretty good, suit them up with shields, flip Kyra, deal damage to them, oh wait, soak up the shields instead, deal damage to your opponent's things, and then, you know, have a pretty damn good foothold on the game for most of the rest of the game. Now this deck, don't get me wrong, is going to be hard as hell to pilot. If you give this deck to the right person, they will crush people. And if you build this deck right, or give it to a person that's really good at playing this deck can wreak havoc. This could be potentially the best vigilance villainy deck in the game. Easily. I feel like it is right now. But if you give it to the right person, it could do wonders. And it could stomp most all of the entire meta game itself. This deck's nuts. This deck can do work in the right hands. But it's difficult to play. So that's why I'm playing it at number 4. But coming in at number 3, there's Boba Fett. The new Boba Fett. They made 2 Boba Fetts. Now there's another one. Now there's a new one. It's not as good as the first one, but still. Boba Fett says when you play a unit that has 1 or more keywords, you may exhaust this leader to then give a +1 power buff to a unit for the turn. Okay. Once you have 6 resources, you can epic action Boba. And then he's a 4/7. That says each other friendly unit that has 1 or more keywords gets +1 power. Oh. Control has pretty much most of the units that Control has access to, because Boba Fett's Control, has keywords on it, or at least most of the played ones. And then you suit this up with, I don't know, aggression, and just build a rushdown deck of Boba, and have Boba as the top end. You can basically just do tons of, point out all the keyword stuff in the world, rush down the opponent, make sure that they can't deal enough damage to you to kill you with some good Sentinel cards like Echo-Based Defender, for example. And then you flip Boba, give a +1 power buff to pretty much your entire board, and just say, hey, bye, you're dead, good luck, trying to beat me now. But we still got 2 more to talk about. We still got 2 more leaders to talk about. The first one being Han Solo, the new Han Solo. For those of you that didn't like Han in the first set, his first showcasing, you're not the only one. But this one is better, because it is worth the risk. As an action, you can exhaust Han and play a unit from your hand that costs 1 less. Now, because of this card's ability. And you deal 2 damage to that unit. Wait, red 3 costs 3. But it can cost 2 now. So you can play it on turn 1, and it'll still live. What? But then there's K2SO that you can play on turn 2, thanks to Han. And I can just keep going on and on and on and on and on about cards that you couldn't play on a turn before, but now you can because of this guy. And this card right here could be the most aggressively powerful stupid deck in the entire game now. This aggro deck now, this is the best aggro deck in the game. This is better than Sabine. This is better than Sabine. No joke, this is better than Sabine, because this can put out more powerful cards than Sabine ever could. a turn earlier. So yeah, that's good. But then there's the back. It does a lot of the same things. Once you have 5 resources, it's a 3/6 that multiple times in a turn, because as an action, you can just play a unit from your hand that costs 1 less because of this card's ability, and you get to deal 2 damage to it. So yeah, even being able to do it multiple times on the backside, it's not as relevant, but it can still be very good. But overall, like, this card is insane. It's just insane. This deck's just insane. It's just insane. But there's one more. There's one more deck. Now, what could be more powerful than this stupid thing? What could be more powerful than the current second best deck in the entire game? The deck that counters it. Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand. Now, this deck. Do you know what Energy Conversion Lab is by chance? You know, just the okay base from the very first set that, you know, allowed you to play a unit that cost 6 or less and give it ambush to the face. But only once a game, so it was only so good, right? But what if you could do it multiple times? Enter Fennec Shand. So this deck, for 1 resource, as an action, and exhausting her, you can play a unit from your hand that costs 4 or less. Not 6 or less. But you still have to pay the cost, like Energy Conversion Lab, but you get to give that thing ambush. So for 1 resource, instead of free, you can multiple times a game play a thing that costs 4 or less and give it ambush. So it's a better Energy Conversion Lab on your leader. What? But there's more. My friend. Because once you have 5 resources, you can flip Fennec, and now she's a 4/4 with Saboteur. Okay? And as an action that can be used multiple times in a turn, you can play a unit from your hand that costs 4 or less, paying its cost, and give it ambush for the face. So let's say, after the turn you play Fennec, you have 2 3-cost cards in your hand. You want to ambush them both out. Okay. Ambush out 1 with Fennec, ambush out the other with Fennec. Okay, so that's possible now. Now, what's so good about ambush, by the way? So, like, why is this so good? I mean, you can't attack the base. You can only attack units in the same arena. Well, remember Han? You know, how his stuff that got him, like, a lot more value than average came in earlier? Sure, it had 2 damage on it, but that's still pretty good. Well, Fennec's like, hey, you know what? Ambush. Boom. Snipe it down. It's gone now. My thing might die. Most likely will die too. But hey, now all the value that you just got is gone. And that's Han. Then we look at all the other decks. Any other deck that cares about playing units, wants to play units that can get a lot of value. You know, like Maz Kanata, for example, from this set. You want to get a lot of value out of that card, right? Well, Fennec's like, hey, snipe it. It's just like anything. Any like unit in the game now that you want to get value out of, you gotta worry about Fennec. Because it's like, hey, what if this thing gets ambushed by a Fennec deck now? So this deck kind of completely warps the game around Fennec. Because, I don't know, if you're playing a deck like Krennic, or any kind of control deck, like Kyra, or Krennic, or just any kind of control deck, don't care a ton about Fennec, but if you aren't, any unit that you want to get value out of now, this card says no. And in addition to that, past 4-cost stuff, you got other things that do ambushy BS. Other cards from this set, that give your ambush things tons of value now, making your opponent's stuff attack for less, or be able to block for less when it's getting ambushed, or your stuff attacking for more when it's ambushing, or just like, what? And this is cunning, by the way. This is a cunning deck. This is a yellow deck. So this has access to some of the most interactive cards in the entire game. So this deck can just be more interactive and screw with decks, especially ones that care about units, more than any other deck in the entire game. And yeah, I feel like this deck pretty easily will be the most powerful deck in the entire game now. But anyways, now that you know just how good Fennec is, now you know just how good a ton of leaders are from the set, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. And enjoy, everybody.